Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge, etc. From Mailroom to Corner Office, A Banker's Journey by Dr. R. Srinivasan. This is the cover page of the book. Today, that is 1st July 2025, I am sharing episode 11. These are the YouTube links of the episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and lastly, ninth and 10th episode. Now, new chapter back to banking. Back to banking. Earlier, I had unabashedly complimented myself about my good handwriting. That came in handy for the bank employees' union to make use of it. The secretary of the union in the bank, who was also my batchmate, took me to the union office in Angappa Naikin Street on the third floor of a building. The union office had no furniture and everyone used to sit on the floor. I met for the first time the most powerful secretary of the All India Bank Employees Federation, Madras State. He was Mr. N. Sampath, who was an employee of Bank of India. I am sad to learn that he is no more. My respect to the departed soul. He treated me well, and I was given the job to write the circulars of the Federation and have copies taken on a Roneo Gestetner duplicator. Frequently, we need to stop the Roneo and refill the ink before continuing to make copies. In between, the original will get smudged, and so we need to rewrite the circular before proceeding to take further copies. It was during those days that I came to know the names of stalwarts such as Prabhatkar, Parwana, and Sanyal. Much later, I came to know Tarakeshwar Chakrabarti, who was in Central Bank, Godbole in State Bank of India, and Shanti Sen Gupta in Bank of India. When Prabhatkar came to Madras and addressed the sea of bank employees, I would have been standing at least 200 yards away from the stage. When circumstances changed later, I gained access to Comrade Prabhatkar for a one-to-one meeting. After I became chairman and managing director of New Bank of India, New Delhi in 1981, I found out that Comrade Prabhatkar was staying in a Patel Nagar flat in West Delhi, and so I sought an appointment and went and paid my respects to him. From my personal experience, I can say that there cannot be another trade union leader like him. Much later, when I would be CMD of Allahabad Bank and chairman of IBA, I had developed personal rapport with all the leaders of officers and employees unions in banking industry. By that time, Comrade Kar was no more, and I had to deal with Comrade Narasia from State Bank of India, Hyderabad, and Comrade Tarakeshwar Chakraborty. During the prolonged negotiations of the fifth bipartite settlement, there was not even a single occasion when TC lost his patience and said a single word blaming the management of banks. He and I almost became like brothers, he my elder. There was affectionate he was affectionate and treated me with kindness. Even though this may be out of context, let me say that whenever I think of him, my eyes well up with tears. He really surpassed Comrade Kar in his being magnanimous. I had never come across TC saying an unpleasant word against anyone. He was a gentleman to the very tips of his fingers. There never was a function, good or bad, in his Kolkata house that I did not attend. When TC passed away in May 2003, I wept like a child losing his father. His large photograph still adorns the premises of AIBEA in Lal Bazar, Kolkata. When I went to Kolkata for the first time after his passing, I visited the AIBEA office, and as soon as I saw his photo, I burst out crying like a child. Mr. Venkatachalam, the present AIBEA leader, was there by chance and he consoled me. By that time, I was no longer in bank service. I realize that I have gone astray from the main theme of the story. Suddenly, from my clerical days in National Bank of India, I have gone to narrate some anecdotes of dealing with AIBEA and AICOBOO. So let me go back and pick up the thread where I left. At this point, I must record one of the most important events in my life, which almost changed me once and for all. It involves one of the greatest people in Indian history and the one whom President Richard Nixon of the USA described after meeting him that he had met an infinitely wise man. Who does not know the last Governor General of India, Chakravarti Rajagopalachari, who wrote Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita in English and translated Thirukkural in English. He was the Sambandhi of Mahatma Gandhi by the marriage of his daughter Lakshmi to Devdas, son of Mahatma. Chakravarti Rajagopalachari, affectionately and popularly called Rajaji, had retired as the first and last Indian Governor General of India. He succeeded Mountbatten, who was the last British Governor General, and had settled down in Madras when the undivided Madras state faced a crisis in Madras in the year 1952. Rajaji was called upon to lead the Congress party and form a government. It is a separate story to talk about his efficient and corruption free administration, his statesmanship, and the manner in which he navigated the issue of separate state for Andhra, etc. Those are outside the purview of my essays. Suffice it to say, I had developed a great reverence, admiration, and deepest regard for the great man. I tried to see him whenever possible and never hesitated to prostrate before him, even in public places such as an airport or railway station. I was fond of running errands for him. I was so much attracted to him that I felt like working for him as a volunteer, although I did not know whether he would accept me as one. One day, I was bold to write a letter to him expressing my keen desire to quit my job in the British Bank and become his full time servant. Was it a mature decision or an impulsive thought or simply a stunt that I played? It is difficult to describe with this distance of time. I eventually received a reply from him on a postcard written in his own hand stating, Dear Sir, your fine letter. I have no servants to feel zealous of your offer. The job you are doing is nothing to be ashamed of. Continue to do your job in a worthy manner, and I have no objection to your dedicating it mentally to me. Yours sincerely, C. Rajagopalachari. I must have read that letter 1,000 times. It was an unforgettable moment in my life, and the postcard was a priceless possession. There and then I decided that I would work hard and dedicate my work to him. Let me mention here that I obtained a PhD from Bombay in 1992 for my thesis on priority sector advances and overview, and when I had the thesis published as a book, I dedicated it to him. My guide for the doctorate complimented me for this way of showing gratitude to the person who changed my life. Now let me return to my experiences in banks. The first ever bank strike was in National Bank of India Limited for 13 days. I do not remember the exact year and the main cause of it. However, the strike ended in a victory of the union of which I was an active member. It was my duty to guard the rear entrance to the bank to ensure that no employee outwitted the union and went on duty. One day, when I was guarding the gate, the English manager came out and amidst shouts he called to me and specifically ordered that I should immediately get to work, and if I failed to do so, I had to face the consequences. I do not know why I defied the orders and survived the threat. Of course, there was no salary for the duration of the strike. No work, no pay. National Bank of India employees also had a recreation club and I took part in their indoor games. I was very good at carom. I even reached the level of state championship. I was so skilled that if I opened the game, my opponent did not get a chance to play because I pocketed all my coins and the red taking a score of 14 unless with along with my white one or two of the opponent's coin also went into the pocket. When I got married and went to my father-in-law's village on holidays, my prowess in carom had become a folklore. It was also a good. I was also a good chess player, and I won prizes in the bank's tournaments. On an annual sports day, I participated in a few athletic events. These were held in the compound of the Madras High Court on the Law College grounds. In every event I took part, I found that other participants were so much afraid of me that as soon as the umpire sounded ready, steady, go, they ran like mad, leaving me far behind. I paced myself and ultimately found none in front of me, and I leisurely reached the winning post. At the end of the day, I found that my thigh muscles had become rigid and were causing me terrible pain. Later, I was told that running, long jump, and high jump events were not meant for mortals like me. Finally, there was a fancy dress competition in which I took role of monkey charmer and I won a prize for that act. Almost around that time, towards the end of the year 1959 and beginning of 1960, my wife came across an advertisement in the Hindu newspaper that called for applications for the appointment of assistant manager in a private bank. I knew that I was the least qualified for the job, but on the persistent nudging of my wife, I submitted an application. My wife was interested in my getting a job that would enable us move out of our joint family home because she was tired of suffering at the hands of her mother-in-law and sister-in-law. A few weeks later, I got called for an interview at the bank's Hyderabad office. The institution was the Andhra Bank Limited, whose head office was in Machilipatnam, also known as Bundar, but the interview was scheduled in Hyderabad. I had to go there for the interview. Till then, I had never gone anywhere outside Madras except to Tirupati because of the Lord of Seven Hills is our family deity. That is also the reason behind my name. I decided to go to Hyderabad a day earlier and find out the location of the bank so that I did not mess up the interview schedule. Again, fate played a great part in my life. On the day before the interview, I was walking along the street in Hyderabad to locate the office where I was to appear for my interview. It was on an upper floor of Central Bank of India's Hyderabad branch where the Andhra Bank Limited was based. I was standing on a platform in front of the building and allowing my imagination to run riot as though I was getting the job. At that very moment, I heard the honking of a car and a gentleman in it was accosting me. I looked at him and he called me near the car and asked me what I was doing in Hyderabad. I mentioned to him about my job hunting efforts and about my interview the next day. He asked me in Chess Telugu if I was mad to leave a British institution and join a small bank like Andhra Bank. He said, Niku pichi ekinta empty, and I explained to him that I was a clerk in the British bank and while the job here, if I got, would make me an officer. Although this may be a diversion from the main topic of my writing, I feel it would be of interest to bankers, old and new, to recall certain changes in the banking scenario in India. As I am writing this purely from memory, any errors or omissions in details may be kindly condoned. I had mentioned the name of the first bank that I joined on 1st March 1949 on the lowest rung of the ladder. This was a British bank originally incorporated in India in the mid 19th century. There were other British and foreign banks operating in the country at this time. To the extent I could recollect, there were Lloyds Bank, Eastern Bank, Mercantile Bank, Hong Kong Bank, Chartered Bank, Greenless Bank, British Bank of the Middle East, First National City Bank of New York, Bank of America, Bank of China, Habib Bank, and so on. The chartered bank's full name was Chartered Bank of India, Australia, and China, which underwent several changes before it emerged as the Standard Bank of today. Similarly, the National Bank of India also underwent more changes in name. It changed to National Overseas and Greenless, National and Greenless, Greenless Overseas, Greenless ANZ, and Greenless PLC. During these changes, the ownership and or controlling interests also changed hands. At one stage, the bank was for a short time owned by First National City Bank of New York, which also changed its name to its present name of Citibank. NA systems and procedures in National Bank were also changed to that of FNCB. Ultimately, National Bank was emerged into the Standard Bank of South Africa and then Standard Bank. There is thus no national bank or chartered bank any longer. Returning to my visit to Hyderabad in 1900 in the early 1960 to undergo this interview for a job in the Andhra Bank Limited. The gentleman who was trying to convince me that I was a mentally deranged person bent upon leaving a job in a multinational British bank and joining a regional bank with its head office in a nook, took pity on me and said, "Okay, if that is what you want, then get in the car." I had no idea where this man was going to take me, but the fact that in an unknown place, quite unexpectedly, I was getting a ride in a car made me forget everything around me. I just obeyed him. In those days, going in a car was something that I could not had even dreamt of. In my heart of hearts, I wished and desired that someone who knew me should see me going in a car. Childish desire. Alas, none gave me that pleasure. The person who took me in his car was none other than the same businessman who felt let down by me when I did not accept his offer of three crisp 100 rupee notes as a gift for doing my duty. He took me to the house of another well to do aristocratic Andhra landlord. They talked to each other in singular terms like buddies. He was the director of the Andhra Bank Limited. My benefactor told him that he knew me and that I was an honest man for whom he would vouchsafe that I was going to appear for an interview in his bank the following day and that as a director he should give me that I get the job. He was not requesting him to do that but was giving him orders. The other person started pleading with him that he was only a director and that the job interview was being conducted by the chairman and vice chairman, and he was not even taking part. My benefactor would not listen to him. He again told him in a commanding voice, "I do not care whether you are on the interview board or not. You have to go to the venue and see that this young man is selected." He left me at that and wished me good luck. To me, it appeared that both of them were very close to each other. Otherwise, it was very unusual for someone to give direction and was not prepared to accept no for an answer. The next day, when I went for the interview, I was told that the post for which I applied was already filled by promoting someone from within the bank. But possibly due to the pressure of the other director, the person who was conducting the interview asked me a few questions on foreign exchange, mostly very rudimentary, which showed that he too did not know much on that subject. This was to my good fortune. Finally, he asked me if I would accept any other post if offered. I wonder how I dared to reply that I would certainly consider the offer and requested for a few days to consider it if it was made. This was granted. I went back to Madras, consulted my conscience keeper, my wife, and with her approval, called on the vice chairman who was in Madras on a visit. I was subsequently offered a job as special officer foreign exchange. Although the designation was high sounding, it was in the sub agent's grade. In those days, bank branches were managed by agents, smaller branches by sub-agents, and still smaller branches by accountants. The chapter Back to Banking continuing in next episode. Subchapter will be Andhra Bank, Hyderabad. Thank you very much for your patience. Please like and share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel.